Hi, everyone. Every week on Food Talk with Danny Nierenberg, I'm going to share some updates and news that make me excited, energized, infuriated, or curious. And the first is after 4 years of serving a fully plant-based menu, the Manhattan, New York restaurant 11 Madison Park has decided to bring back animal products. In 2021, after being closed during the pandemic, the restaurant reopened with their fully vegan menu. And Chef Daniel Hume said he saw the fragility in food and agriculture systems that the pandemic exposed. And he said at that time, we couldn't go back to what we did before. The menu and Daniel's ideology that going vegan is part of the solution to some of our most pressing problems was met with mixed reviews. Some praised the example that Hume was setting, others felt it was like a little of a high end stunt. But now Chef Hume says that he's bringing meat back, both for financial reasons and to make the restaurant more welcoming to everyone. He says that he very much believed in the all in approach, but he didn't realize that we would exclude people. Large private bookings had declined because bigger parties were unwilling to commit to an entirely vegan meal. And according to Hume, it became increasingly difficult to keep up the level of creativity and labor required for this plant-based menu. I think that's kind of a poor excuse because it can be really easy and fun to be creative with plant-based products. The new menu, which will be introduced in mid-October, will still be largely plant-based, and those who don't want meat or seafood or other animal products can still do that. Kim Severson of the New York Times reports Hume began thinking seriously about bringing meat back on the menu earlier this year during a trip to Greece, where he had sort of this, experience witnessing a shepherd slaughter a goat, and he was very moved by the respect for the animal that was shown. And as he mulled over the experience, he began thinking more about the feedback from his diners and uh, shared people who shared that their friends or partners would never come back because they were turned off by the menu. And it led Chef Hume to believe that this approach had become more exclusionary and not very hospitable, and that's not what he intended. Some people have expressed disappointment, with another person writing, yesterday, you were the owner of the world's most famous vegan restaurant, an inspiration. Today, you are the owner of just another restaurant. I don't agree. And I'm someone who doesn't eat meat. I think that when chefs and restaurants are thoughtful about what kinds of ingredients they use, whether it's meat, seafood, or vegetables or grains, that helps create a better food and agriculture system, being thoughtful, sourcing thoughtfully. And it allows small and medium scale farmers to have mixed crop livestock systems that improve soil health, sequester carbon, and provide economic livelihoods. I read one really great post on social media about 11 Madison Park, and one person said that they thought Hume was brave for embracing the complexity of the world, and I really applaud that. We need to embrace the complexity. We need, more nuance. These are things that I think we talk a lot about on this podcast. Nothing is really black or white for sure. From here, I want to shift gears and talk about a concerning change affecting federal workers. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently terminated union contracts with thousands of employees from the animal health and food safety inspection agencies. USDA says that the change is being made to help them return to being a customer service focused farmer first agency and become more nimble as well as an attractive employer. I don't know how having inspectors without union contracts that protect them and pay them fairly makes the agency more nimble, but I guess we'll see. In response to the move, Milton Jones, the president of the United Food and Commercial Workers International Union, said that the decision doesn't just erode labor rights, it damages the public's trust in the safety of our food supply. The collective bargaining agreement covers about 6,500 food and consumer safety inspectors at the Food Safety and Inspection Service, which inspects meat, poultry, and egg products for quality and to prevent foodborne illnesses, and roughly 1,500 employees at the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, which inspects plants for pests and diseases. Those 1,500 workers will be affected by the termination of their agreement. According to Paula Soldner, the chairperson of the National Joint Council of Food Inspection Locals, the termination of these agreements only adds to employees' uncertainty and confusion as the Trump-Vance administration continue to shrink the federal government's footprint. So very concerning for these workers, very concerning for the safety of our food supply. All of us should be concerned about this. Sticking with some of the changes we're seeing from the federal administration, a new report finds that the second Trump administration has made 70% more changes to government environmental websites during the first 100 days than they did during their first administration. This, to me, is literally rewriting history. The report comes from the Environmental Data and Governance Initiative, and they find that the changes are only getting bolder. The biggest targets, not surprisingly, include diversity, equity and inclusion, and environmental justice. The amount of information being scrubbed has surprised Gretchen Gerke, the co-founder of the Environmental Data and Governance Initiative, who told NPR that the level of total erasure of any topic was never seen under Trump's first term. For example, the government has taken down the Council on Environmental Quality's Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool, which identified disadvantaged communities to ensure a percent of climate program benefits reach them. 9 similar screening tools have also disappeared. Climate change information has been altered or removed from federal websites, and following layoffs at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, which shared information about changing weather patterns, drought conditions, and greenhouse gas emissions, they stopped publishing new content this summer. Really concerning for me. So you can hide all the data you want. The climate crisis is still real. It's still going to have dire impacts for us all. And that brings us to our next story on the wildfires affecting parts of Southern Europe and Northern Africa. We have covered the extreme heat that's plaguing Europe this summer, but I want to now talk about new satellite imagery revealing this wildfire season to be the most destructive in nearly 2 decades in the European Union. The data shows that flames have affected almost 9,000 square kilometers, and that's roughly the size of Puerto Rico, and that's just this year. Last week, thousands of people were evacuated from Greece, Spain, Turkey, and Albania. Extreme heat and dry conditions are also fueling wildfires in Portugal and Morocco. Across these countries, flames have destroyed homes and farmland. There are photos documenting the devastation from the Associated Press, showing scorched barns and agricultural equipment, as well as people fleeing the fires with their farm animals, which is really so sad. In Albania, many folks were forced to abandon their livestock in a region heavily dependent on these animals for food. People are now returning to their villages to assess their losses with volunteering help to nurse what animals they can back to health. So again, really sad. Finally, I want to end with some good news. New finding from Mexico's statistics agency show that more than 8.3 million people were pulled out of poverty between 2022 and 2024. Go Mexico. This represents a 23% drop in the number of people living in extreme poverty and a 16% drop in the number of people living in moderate poverty. According to Manuel Martinez Espinoza, a researcher at Mexico's National Council of the Humanities, Sciences, and Technologies, the progress can partly be attributed to several different things, including the increase in Mexico's minimum wage, which tripled in 2018, and the year Mexico's President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador took office. The country also introduced several social welfare programs that now appear to be paying off in a big way. Mexico's National Institute of Statistics and Geography reports that as a result, access to Social Security, food security, and dignified living conditions have all gone up. Again, go Mexico. Lopez Obrador's successor, President Claudia Sheinbaum, called the progress extraordinary and historic, stating that for the food of all, first the poor is not just a slogan, but a reality in Mexico. Very Rios, an independent public policy expert, stated that there's never been a single 6th term in which poverty has been reduced or decreased so significantly. Policy analysts are also celebrating the knock-on effect. Higher minimum wages will allow other parts of the economy to improve thanks to the greater availability of resources. So again, a big shout out to Mexico, and I hope other countries can follow that lead. You can find all the sources for this news roundup in our show notes, and please feel free to email me at danielle@foodtank.com with comments and suggestions. Thanks for listening.